everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name's Stacey and this is Stacey in the Books channel, where I talk about mainly what books I've read, but sometimes also the books that my children are reading, who are age 4, 9 and 12. Probably not so much from a 12-year-old anymore because he's getting to that point where he doesn't really like reading. But anyway, July was a very okay-ish month. I did dip into a bit of a reading slump, but luckily the 3 books that I read did get me out of them after, I'm going to say, the first book after 50 pages, and then the same with the second, but the third one I absolutely flew through. I read in 2 days. So yeah, here are the 3 books and let's talk about those. The first one is The Beekeeper of Aleppo by Christy Lefty. This is a novel that was written in 2019, and it deals with the plight of refugees from Syria going into Europe. Even though this is a fiction book, it is based on the author's experiences after she worked as a volunteer in the summer, I believe in Greece. So obviously she's talked to refugees firsthand and found out their stories. But this one, it follows Nuri, who's a beekeeper, and his wife, who's an artist, Afria. Now, they're living in Syria, happy life, happy family. They have a son, Sammy, and then the war in Syria starts and they need to flee, especially because their son gets killed. I can't remember how old he was, but he sounds probably about 6, maybe younger, maybe older, I'm not quite sure. But it is a beautiful story. It's set in 2015, I believe, especially because there are emails that have been, well, it mentions emails sent between Nuri and his cousin Mustafa, who's already fled Syria, and he's made it to Britain, and he's got a home, he's got somewhere to live, and he's got a job, and he's as a beekeeper, because he used to work with Nuri in Syria as a beekeeper. And I think those emails of hope is what makes Nuri fight to get from, because they end up in Greece after a rocky boat ride, where he meets a little boy who tags along with Afra and him. Afra is blind. She's seen something so horrific. I don't want to say what the horrific thing is because I think that will spoil it. But she's seen something really horrific and is made to go blind. Whether it's temporary or permanent, you'll have to read. But yeah, once they're in Greece, they find it difficult. It's not very nice staying conditions. Nuri, because he's trying to get Afra out of there, he manages to find some paints and stuff to keep her occupied. Even though she's blind, she still wants to paint. Nuri ends up doing, it sounds like dodgy work, for a Greek guy who says, if you do this and give me money, a lot of money, I will get you some tickets and passports to get out of here into Britain. And it goes through the journey and the struggle that Nuri and Afra have to get from a war-torn country, pit stop in Greece, and then onto the UK. It really does open your eyes what they have to go through and the things that can happen. So there's a bit of a trigger warning. Afra does get raped. So while Nuri is on the job by his boss. So yeah, it really does open your eyes what these refugees have to go through to get to safety. But I definitely give this book 5 out of 5 stars, and it's a book that's going to be with me for a long time, I think, because it really has opened my eyes about what people have to go through, because I've never really read anything like that before. The next book I read is The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley. This is a bit like a thriller. Yes, I know it's a bit of a mixture this month, so I'm going to class that as historical fiction, thriller, and the next one contemporary, I think. But this follows Ben, who lives in Paris apartment, but he's only in the beginning of the first part of the book, because it mainly centres on Jess, his sister, who's a bit of a can't really hold down a job, always on the run. She doesn't like the police, but when she comes to the apartment that Ben is currently living in, he's only been there 3 months. The people who also live in the apartment, they're acting a bit strange, a bit selfish. Well, not selfish, but they're hiding something. They're hiding secrets. There's a young girl living there, an older woman on the penthouse. They're all rich, but she finds out they're actually all family, and they are hiding a secret. But the secret she wants to unfold is, where is her brother? I found blood in his apartment. You know, I can't speak the language. She doesn't really want anything to do with the police, but she's going to have to report it. So yeah, it's a good book. It's a steady read, but then towards the end, oh my goodness, there's so many twists and turns that really keep you gripped until the end. You do find out what happens to Ben, but it is a really good twist involving Mimi and her mum. So yeah, if you like a book that has a lot of twists and turns in it, and a really good mystery, Paris Apartment is one for you. So yeah, definitely another couldn't put down once I got near towards the end. Yeah, so yeah, I definitely give that one 5 out of 5 stars. And the last book I read, it was a lovely birthday present off my brother, and yeah, I know it was in March and I've only got around to it, but it seems to be a thing. He buys me a book for my birthday in March. I don't read it until the first week of the summer holidays. I don't know why. But I have to say, his pick was absolutely brilliant, and it was Stepping Up by Sarah Turner. Now, I read this in 2 days, so if I read a book in 2 days, it's really good. Plus, I got out of my slump. This follows Beth. She's a bit of a, still lives with mum and dad in her early 30s, I'd say. She goes out every week. She works all week. She goes out every weekend, gets drunk, nurses a hangover on Sunday, and that with her friend Jory, who's a teacher. Obviously, this goes on all the time. Then one day, her brother-in-law and her sister are involved in an accident which kills her brother-in-law and puts her sister in a coma. You know, she could be in the coma for a couple of hours, days, weeks, months, ends up being months. And in the will of her sister and her brother-in-law, event of anything happening to them, Beth becomes the legal guardian of her teenage niece and toddler nephew. Obviously, Beth's never taken care of anybody before but herself. She does have her parents around to, you know, support and help her. But it's basically a story of where, as the title says, Beth's got to step up and she's got to leave basically her old life behind, and she's got to help her niece and nephew through probably the worst point of their life, getting her through the death of their father and their mum. Is she ever going to wake up? But it's a beautiful story, and you see Beth grow and to learn how to become a guardian to children. I definitely recommend it. A bit of a love story towards the end, where her and her best friend, are actually in love, and they, you know, is it a will they, won't they get together? But I also love Albert in this. Albert is the elderly neighbour of her sister, because Beth moves in to her sister's house because it's just easier and it's better for the children. And he's such a sweet, he's in his 80s and he's such the loveliest old guy, and he becomes friends with Beth, and you know, they form a little book club together, and he's kind of there to, you know, help her get her through this tough time. And he's just the sweetest little old guy, and it just reminds me of the old people that used to live in my parents' road when I was a child. Yeah, so yeah, definitely another 5 out of 5 stars for this one. Good choice, bro. Keep them up, keep them coming. So yeah, they're the 3 books I read in July. They really did help me get out of a reading slump. They're all obviously different genres, so yeah, if one of those takes your fancy, or all 3, or if you've read them before, let me know in the comments below, and I will be back soon with another video. Bye.